Hey everyone, and welcome again at the Global AI Developers Days. You are now watching the kickoff event that is all about the possibilities of AI. In the past 2 hours, we have seen the inspiring keynotes delivered by our panelists. Now, this is your chance to ask our amazing panelists the questions you've always wanted to get answered. Now, to do this, if you have a question, use the chat on your platform of choice, and our moderators will pick them up. Well, moderators, that's Shoka and me. So let's welcome our panelists and get to know them a bit better. So we'll start with Erik Boyd. We have two Eriks on the call, but we'll start with Erik Boyd. So Erik, thanks again for your insights that you gave during your keynote about AI innovations at Microsoft. As I said before, I was really impressed how Microsoft really tries to democratize AI and all the work that your team is putting into that. Now, since the first Global AI Bootcamp in 2018, you have been part of all the events throughout the years. So I hope for many people you are a familiar face, but for the people joining and being part of the community for the first time, could you quickly introduce yourself again for the ones who are just joining this call?
Happy to. Yeah, I love the community and happy to be a part of it. So I'm Erik Boyd. I lead the AI platform team at Microsoft with fabulous tools like Azure Machine Learning and our suite of cognitive services.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just a random question to make people get to know you a little bit better. What was the first computer you touched?
First computer, my dad had the original IBM PC, but I didn't get to use that one too much. So my first computer really was the TRS-80, the Tandy color computer.
Okay, cool.
Nice. Our next panelist is Ekaterina Marinova. Welcome, Ekaterina. Thank you so much for your useful talk about all the skills you need when you are working in the field of AI. I really learned a lot, and I also noticed that I have lots of skills that I need to add as well. I want to ask you a short question to get to know you a bit better as well. What was the first AI project that you have been involved in?
So thank you very much, and thank you for having me in these great panels, in these great discussions. My first project, so I was working in Microsoft back then, and my first project, and I got it afterwards, everybody was chasing me for that, was actually working on a chatbot, which I considered like a very, very deep AI project. Back then, this was like the first thing that I was working on, but it was a chatbot solution that further developed within the organization and within machine learning within the organization, and working with the employees and the organization back then, the company.
Nice, great project to work in, and also a background at Microsoft. Wow.
I started my career there. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Amazing place.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, and then we go to Francesca. I really liked in your talk how you brought all the items together and the machine learning operations, all the tasks that needs to be done. And you also show that ML Ops is not just a tool; it's also a way of thinking how you start your projects. Also, a quick question to you. What's the first software that you touched?
So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me today. So the first software I touched was MATLAB, which was a software that as a scientist we were using at university to run a few data analyses. And that was the first software that I used. And I have to say was the first software that gave me the possibility also to start working with data and start building those preliminary machine learning models.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And our last panelist, Erik Pounds. Welcome to the panel. Erik, you work at NVIDIA, and we heard some great insights from your colleague Manu Veer about the essential things you need to know as a developer in this new age of AI. Welcome to the show. And we have a question.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, great that you are here. And of course, we have a question for you as well.
Sure.
To know you a bit better. What was the first game you played?
Wow, a lot of things can be qualified as games, but I guess I can remember my first electronic game. It was a miniaturized arcade version of Q*bert. I guess I got it sometime in the early '80s. And I'd sit on the floor and play it for long periods of time. And actually, that reminds me, I need to go to my parents' house and find that game. I need to save it.
Okay, great. I don't know that game.
Me neither.
No.
No. The Eriks are laughing with us now.
So if you found it, please share something with us about it.
We'll do.
Yeah.
There's those specific streaming platforms where people are gaming on. Maybe you can start your own streaming channel. Okay, so we're here not to discuss these kinds of things, of course. We're here to talk about the future of AI. Well, there's no doubt that AI is getting more and more embedded in our daily lives, and we see it everywhere around us. Now, in solutions that help us do our work better, faster, and even more accurate, but also solutions where we put decisions about our lives in the hands of AI systems. I'm super excited to hear from you all what you think about the future impact on AI and the society. But before we dive into the future, maybe you'll need to have a good understanding of the state of AI right now. So maybe Francesca, I can start with you. Can you tell us the current state of AI, what is possible and what is not possible?
Excellent question. So I do think that the current state of AI is, first of all, very interesting from a professional point of view, in the sense that there are many different professions that have been created around this field. So when I started many years ago as a data scientist at Microsoft, I have to say that my profession was considered a little bit new. A lot of people didn't really understand at that time what I was doing. And then the more I have been working in this industry, the more I noticed that there are so many additional professionals that are working also with me. Like I work with now data scientists, machine learning engineers, data engineers, MLOps developers, also product managers that are the ones that develop the tools that are then used by all these professionals. So what I think that is currently possible with AI is the fact that we have this exposure of AI to many different people around the world. So you don't really need to be a data scientist, or you don't really need to have a PhD to work in machine learning and in AI to build those solutions that then are going to have an impact to other people. And so there is all that theme about democratizing AI and also the creation of machine learning solutions and AI application, which is great. During my talk, I also presented a few open source tools that have been like super well integrated also on the cloud. I myself and my teams, we work a lot with Azure Machine Learning, and some of those tools that I presented are PyTorch, TensorFlow, Ray, if you are in the reinforcement learning field. And so all of these is great. Like, I think that we all are in a moment of history where we know that that there is so much potential in AI, and a lot of big tech companies are working to creating those tools that are opening up the potential of AI to many different people, which is great. On the other side, what you also asked me, part of your question was like, what is not possible with AI? Well, there are a lot, of course, of risk with these potentials, because of course, when you start opening those tools, those open source frameworks, those AI application APIs that a lot of people can leverage in order to build those solutions, means that, of course, there are many different individuals that can start building their own application. There are many different data that can be used, and that, of course, create a risk also from an ethical point of view. So I do think that there are some tools that needs to be implemented as part of the current situation. I personally use a lot of also Python packages that can help with that, such as InterpretML. We have Fair AI, which are like great tools also to assess the level of fairness of your AI applications. However, there is still a lot that needs to be done everywhere in the industry in terms of privacy, data governance, and more of these things. So that is, in my opinion, an aspect of AI that we need to keep investing on.
Right. If you look at it, what is possible now, we see that more and more people who do not have AI skills can start building their own tools. But of course, they need to be careful what exactly they're building. And therefore, of course, we have the specific frameworks that are there that can help them to grow into building something responsible, for example. Now, if you would be allowed to pick one project that you say, like, this is really the best AI project that is being built at this moment, what project would come in mind?
Well, a project that I have been probably working a lot with a few students at university, actually. So it's a project that I have been working on actually during my weekends. It's about image recognition for drug discovery. And I don't want to mention the project as like the only example of the best AI project I have been working on, but I want more to talk about the field. I do think that right now AI and machine learning application have been used a lot in the field of drug discovery. And I'm based in Boston. So in Boston, we do have a lot of biotech companies and also pharmaceutical companies, and also a lot of startup researchers and students that are working in this field. So I'm not going to name one specific applications or one specific project, but I do believe that that is also a huge field for AIs to contribute to. And we saw, of course, some of the results also recently after the global pandemic that we all had to face, and some of the discoveries that help us also to overcome that very challenging moment, that pandemic. They had been actually discovered by some researchers in the Boston area using machine learning AI on, of course, drug discovery use cases. So I do think that it's probably one of the most inspiring cases where I see that AI is really helping our society to overcome a very challenging period of history.
I can imagine, especially in drug research, that a lot can be done and fast forwarded, and the research that before took a lot of more time. Erik Boyd, do you have anything to add on to what Francesca already said? Oh, we cannot hear you.
Maybe
Just
you're
give
on
us
mute.
a second.
Yeah, sorry, my fault. So I think there's so many different and exciting fields that are moving so quickly that to say, like, what is the state of the art, like, and so Francesca talking about sort of vision and drug discovery and all of those. I think there are a lot of interesting applications there. The place I'm most excited these days is in the large language models. We've just seen, they've just exploded over the last 3 to 5 years, and they continue to get more and more powerful. And the types of things that you can do, I think, are really going to be, pretty amazing. And you combine sort of those language models now with sort of generative vision models and some of these diffusion models and things like DALL-E. And so now you've got tools where someone who's not particularly creative, who's not particularly talented artistically, or, maybe is struggling to sort of come up with something to write, now has these tools that can really unlock a lot of potential for them. And so I think a lot of that's really pretty exciting.
Yeah, those are very pretty exciting. I've seen some examples of DALL-E, and that's a really promising model. Yeah, totally agree with that. I'm very impressed what AI can all do and how fast things have evolved in the last 10 years. Now let's move 10 years into the future. Erik Boyd, what do you think about the future of AI? Is it going to change the world as we know it in 10 years?
I think someone once said that we overestimate how far things will go in 1 year and underestimate how far they will go in 10 years. And I think that's probably the case. The types of things that we're seeing that AI is capable of doing can completely change the way that we interact with computers, what we expect for them to do. The kinds of things that we've been sort of dreaming of, oh, I'll just talk to my computer and it'll just have this assistant, the Star Trek, assistant. Those things are all going to become real. And so it's a matter of when exactly, but the potential for it is really sort of seems like it's coming quite quickly. And so I think it's going to really force us to rethink the interaction patterns that we have. How do we, the machine human interface right now is mostly typing. It has switched to swiping on phones. I think a lot of it, more of it's going to be vocal, and it's just going to be much more ambient. We'll see a lot of it more around us because we'll have the power of computing, plus we'll have the power of the AI technology to really enable those types of things. So I think it's going to be pretty profound. And I really feel like, we keep seeing sort of the knee in the exponential curve. The AI power in some of these models is really just starting to race up that knee. And so I think we're going to be pretty amazed at the types of things we're able to do in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, I think exactly, Erik, as you said, we have the DALL-E and the GPT models and so on. They're really going to change the way we are looking at certain things, or having specific business processes that might be automated in ways that we've never thought about. But that, of course, brings us to other items. It's all of those items need serious compute capabilities. And then, Erik Pound, I start looking at you also. Where do you think all that, will we get there? We have very powerful GPUs now. Are we still in a growing curve, exponential, or how are you looking at that for the next coming years? Will we be able to get enough compute power?
Yeah, Erik, Boyd, you mentioned LLMs, large language models. I think first off, what's available today is extremely exciting. Like in large language models, for example, a year ago, in some of the folks on our team working with the Microsoft team, we trained a 530 billion parameter model, the Megatron Turing NLG model. And we at NVIDIA, we recently demonstrated our AI framework for large language models, NeMo Megatron, on Microsoft Azure, powered by NVIDIA A100 Tensor Core GPUs and InfiniBand networking to tie all that together. And that framework is today designed for billions and trillion parameter models. So it's possible today. I'd say the future capabilities available to us are very promising and exciting. I think one thing everyone needs to think about, and Manavir touched about on this in his session, is one, it's a full stack challenge. So as the hardware capabilities evolve, they can only reach their full potential with the software evolving in lockstep. So for example, at the hardware layer, there's a lot of things that can be done, but we need to think much bigger than just the instance, the system, or the cluster. We need to think data center scale, cloud scale. These models are very, very large, and they need to span many, many, many instances and nodes, and they need to all work together. But within the system, there are advances coming. Like in NVIDIA, we just recently announced and launched our H100 Tensor Core GPU, which will deliver significant faster processing on these larger models as a new transformer engine built into it. And we also take these and then assemble all these capabilities into superpod-like architectures to find optimal ways to scale. So there's promising things, moving forward. But training, customizing, and leveraging these large models wouldn't be possible without these software innovations. These frameworks to substantially reduce the time and cost to fine-tune these models for specific tasks. And also then throughout the life of these hardware generations, the software will keep evolving to make these systems even more capable. I mentioned how what we were able to do on the A100 GPU and a large cluster of those just last year. That may not have been possible when we announced and launched the A100 initially. A lot of the software evolved to take advantage of a lot of these capabilities. So anyway, a good way to be thinking about the future of computing and how it can be leveraged.
It really goes hand in hand, software and hardware, and then
yeah, exactly.
Erik, Boyd, do you have anything to add to this?
I mean, I think I agree with a lot with what Eric Pound said. Of there has been just phenomenal hardware, performance improvements, and we certainly are looking forward to doing a lot more with the H100 series of chips, and very excited about the potential that'll come. So I think we do see that the hardware is growing. Moore's law is definitely suffering, but we're still seeing tremendous power growth, and so I think that's something that we can continue to look forward to.
Endless possibilities. Yeah,
Exactly.
and don't think we have to wait 10 years for that. No. Okay, next question is for Ekaterina. You have seen many projects over the past years, and also from different perspectives, from different companies, technical angles, and business overviews. Can you share your thought on how the future of AI will look in 2032?
Yes, thank you very much for this question. I agree with a lot of what the others have already said. My perspective, also based on my experience, is that in the beginning we were talking about research. Then we started talking about products, right? We were focusing on the technology, we were focusing on the products. Then we switched to solutions. So we started incorporating these products into different solutions and started moving towards selling and positioning those solutions. Now we are moving to redesigning industries. Now we're moving to redesigning industries through those solutions, through those technologies. And I'm absolutely sure that all of these will keep evolving, and we'll be talking about amazing technologies. We'll be talking about holistic solutions and full redesign of the industry, like a new approach to the industry. And for sure, this will happen in the following years. I cannot say exactly how many years, because even before we were predicting that AI will be there sooner, or data science will be big in certain time, and everything happens with this technology growth, with this, like, companies are adapting, technology is moving forward. But then on the other side, we have people, we have academia, we have the community, we have the recipients of this technology, the recipients of these solutions, and the way they accept it, the way they think about it, the way they think about this technology advancement, about this industry redesign, about these solutions. And I believe that the true growth of AI will come when it's incorporated in education, when it's incorporated in the communities, when we're talking about AI open data, when we're talking about this data philanthropy that I was talking previously, about AI being shared across organizations, across academia, across all those hackathons that have been organized. So talking about another approach, talking about another way of thinking of AI, not as something new, but something that's there, something that will be there, and something that will keep evolving.
Yeah, totally true. It's the people in the end that need to that are going to use it, and they need to adapt it before it can fully evolve. Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, I think without a doubt, AI is going to have a big impact on the future. But we also know, as Uncle Ben of Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibility. How do we keep our future selves safe from AI, making mistakes and doing the opposite of what we intend to do? Francesca, as a data scientist, this is kind of also in your hands. What are your thoughts of how do you make sure your models are fair and transparent?
That is an excellent question, and I try to cover part of the answer to this very important question also in my keynote today. Generally speaking, I try as a data scientist, and together also with my organization of data scientists, we try, of course, to follow some principles that Microsoft created. However, I do not think that these are Microsoft principles. I do think that those should be industry principles. And of course, if I can mention them, there are accountability, inclusiveness, reliability, safety, fairness, transparency, privacy, and security. So those are somehow the principles that as a data scientist, as a machine learning scientist, data engineers, of course, you always have to look at them and try to cover each of them, but most importantly, there should be like tools that allows you and your team to include them as a part of your data science machine learning lifecycle. I also think that it's important to make sure that there are open source tools available to cover some of these principles, if not all of these principles. So just to give you some more like applicable example for explainability, some of the open source tools that I use all the time are like for example, the open source framework called InterpretML. So it stands for Interpretable Machine Learning. That is this open source toolkit that helps to achieve a model explainability. And what is very nice is that it produces for you in your notebook, or also if you're using another tool, like for example, in my case, I'm using Azure Machine Learning all the time. It allows you to look at those visualizations that really gives you a very nice overview of why your model is producing specific results. We call it at the global level and at the local level, meaning that you can get this overview, a very clear understanding of why your model is producing specific results, both at the model level, meaning at the different features and variables level, but also at the specific data point level, which is extremely important, especially when you are looking at the impact of your model to a specific, for example, user ID or to a specific customer ID. So the individual level, it's or local level, it's very important. So this is just one example. Another open source toolkit that I have been using very often is Fairlearn. It's integrated in Azure Machine Learning and is another Python-based open source tool that allows you to assess the fairness or the fairness level of your machine learning model. And that it's great, especially when you are using a specific data set that you think is representative enough of the population that you are targeting with your AI solution. So these are just a couple of examples, but what I'm trying to say here is that always try to integrate those tools and those open source toolkits in your solutions, and really they need to be part of your development cycle when you are building as a data scientist machine learning solutions and AI applications.
Okay, thank you very much. I think especially the frameworks that you mentioned already, they're very useful. Now, Erik Boyd, you are responsible for the AI department within all of Microsoft. How do you make sure that everything that is released is also responsible?
Yeah, I mean, we follow the, Francesca's touched on it, right? The AI principles, responsible AI principles. They're super important to us. And so we think a lot about how to develop models responsibly, so much so that we've also released the Responsible AI Standard, which is a set of practices that we follow. When developing a new model, we do impact assessment. So let's think through all the different ways that this model might impact people, and particularly the ways that we, might not think of, up front. And then we come up with what are the set of mitigations that we can come up to minimize those. And so really make sure that we're thinking through them responsible. What are the sets of tests we need to run? What are the tools that we need? How do we use tools like, Fairlearn, error analysis, and all these tools to help us understand, what's happening with the models? And so, having these practices and then really disseminating them throughout the organization is absolutely key to make sure that we're doing this in the right way. And, sometimes it leads to us making choices about we'll gate or restrict certain products. If you want to use custom neural voice, you have to have sign off from the voice actors. And so there are a number of things that we want to do along the way to really make sure that the products that we have are being used in the way that they're intended. Really, we just feel a deep responsibility as creators of this technology. We have to make sure that the benefits of it really accrue to everyone and not just to specific groups. And so keeping focused on that and thinking through the ways that we can do that better, that's the thing that really drives us.
Yeah, thanks very much. I would like to ask the question also to you, Erik Bound, because as hardware manufacturing, you guys also make a lot of frameworks available for the public. How do you handle that within how it's used? The services?
Well, I'll echo what Erik Boyd said as well. Also, I think so definitely the way that you not just the way that you develop your software, but the way that you test your software, really understanding your audience, a lot of these audiences are global. So keeping that in mind as you're testing and tuning these softwares and these models. I think the only other thing I'll add is just also deciding the domains that you decide to invest in, right? There's a lot of solutions, for AI, and what you choose to invest in, what you choose not to invest in, I think is another big part of this decision process.
Okay. Ekaterina, anything to add up on everything that has been said already?
Well, everything that's being said is I totally agree with. I'll go back to a point that I've mentioned. For me, when we're talking about responsible AI, when we're talking about ethics, when we're talking about thinking while creating this, thinking while we're working in this area, we should be talking about a holistic process. So having this in mind from the beginning until the end.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We need to wrap up, but thank you all for your opinions, your visions, and that the willingness to share that with us. And we are really looking forward to the next 10 years in AI. Thank you so much, and also thank you for your sessions. And I hope you have a very good rest of the day.
All right. Take care all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.